Namaskar, all of you. Welcome to a new session on Japa, Japa Kriya, Japa Sadhana, Japa for Upasana, Japa Yoga, Japa Yagna. So, this gives you the idea of the whole diameter of japa. Whereas a common man feels that japa is to just repeat something, or maybe repeat a mantra, repeat a nama. But that is japa kriya. To be repeating name of God, repeating mantra is japa kriya. But then there is japa sadhana for certain specific purposes in Adhyatma. Then japa also is a upachara. It is also a pathi. As a running reference was made during the last session. Then towards the end of the last session, I told you that there are three aspects in Japa Rahasya. I said we are just going to peep into Japa Rahasya, the mysticism in Japa, the Vijnana, the great Jnana Vijnana behind Japa. So there are three factors in Japa. The three factors are Vak, Pran and Manas. Vak is organ of speech, which is of four classes, Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. And then we usually use the Vaikhari Japa or Madhyama Japa as far as the Vak is concerned, the organ of speech is concerned. Then there is Prana in Japa, and then there is Manas in Japa. With regards to prana, I might tell you that if the japa is express japa, vaikhari japa, it has to take place along with exhalations. No speech is possible without exhalation taking place simultaneously. When we are speaking, we are exhaling. The exhalation plays a unique role when it comes through vocal cords. Respiratory exhalation is coming through the nostrils or maybe through the mouth. But that is to emit carbon dioxide, to let out the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That's how we exhale, which is a respiratory act. But in speechly act, the exhalation comes and it comes and vibrates the vocal cords, and we produce sound in the form of speech. And then if that is not there, you cannot be not exhaling and produce a sound. Particularly speech act. For speech act, you must exhale. You can't be having speech while you are inhaling. So there is that prana kriya coming by way of breath. And then of course there is manas. There is intention, there are psychodynamics, and the mind involved in the japa. When it is particularly bhava bhavana, you understand the role of the mind in that japa. Even if it is shabda pradhana japa, you understand there is an intent. There is a subjective entity behind, which is the mind. So, vak, pran, manas. These are three factors. Now, these three factors have three presiding deities. The presiding deity of organ of speech, the mouth, is Agni. Agni is presiding deity. That's why our speech can be a parching speech. We can burn someone in speech. And we don't like someone to be speaking that way. There is fire in the speech, there is fire of the speech, and this fire is much more than physical burning. So the point is that the fire is Agni is presiding deity. That's why our mouth is always damp, because the Agni is the presiding deity. Otherwise, Agni would burn the mouth, and that's why that's a arrangement that the mouth is always damp. It is because of the presiding deity Agni in the mouth. Agni is not supposed to burn out. Its function here is to be carrying out the act of Vagendriya. So to be working as Vagendriya, it cannot be Agni in the form of burning something. However, it is a presiding deity. So Agni is presiding deity over Vak, the Vagendriya. And that's why the Upanishads say, Agni Vak Bhutva Mukham Pravishat. Agni Vak Bhutva Mukham Pravishat. Agni entered our embodiment, as I have given you idea that in Adidevi constitution, the devatas are residing in us. They enter various indriyas, and the Agni enters in Vak for Vagendriya Kriya. And therefore the Upanishads say, Agni Vak Bhutva Mukham Pravishat. Mukha means the face and mouth. So, now understand the deity behind Vak. There are three factors, I repeat, are Vak, Pran, Manas. And the Adidevic constitution says that the Vak is presided over by Agni Devata. The prana is related to Aditya Devata. That means the celestial, rather Adidevic sun, Adidevic Surya, sun, S-U-N. So second deity is Surya Devata. Second deity is Aditya Devata, because it is related to prana. And mind has presiding deity called Soma Devata, Chandra Devata. So there are in Adhyatma, these factors, these devatas are residing in these three factors of speech. Devatas are Agni Devata, Surya Devata, Chandra Devata, respectively in Vak, Pran, Manas. So this is the Adidevic kind of vichar, Adidevic thought in Adhyatma, within our embodiment. The mind is under governance of moon. This is almost accepted fact by even modern science. That is why lunar, which is the moon, and lunatic, the condition of lunacy is related to lunar force. Anyway, the mind is presided over by the deity moon, not the physical moon in the sky, but the deity of the moon, or deity in the form of moon, is in our mind. So these are the three factors. In Adhyatma, the Adidevic aspects are Vak, Agni, Pran, Surya, Manas, Chandra. So bear this in mind, register this fact in the mind. So these are the three factors. Okay. Vak, Agni, Pran, Aditya, Manas, Chandra. Now one more factor can come in here is Vak is for Dhvani, sound. So Vak, Dhvani, Agni is a combination of factors. Vagendriya, Dhvani and Agni Devata. This is a combination of factors. Then the Prana, Surya and Sankhya are other three factors for the second factor. Sub-factors for second factors. Because the Surya Devata is the presiding deity, or Prana is related to Surya. Secondly, the breath is also counted in numbers. And therefore, the Sankhya aspect, number aspect, is related to breath. And of course to Agni, to Surya, the sun, Aditya Devata. And so this is combination of other three factors, sub-factors for the main three factors. Then comes the third aspect is the Manas. Manas is the third factor in Japa. And the Chandra Devata, Soma Devata is the deity. And Artha Bhava, the mind comes to give the Artha and Bhavana. The meaning of Japa and Bhavana behind Japa is endowment of the mind. So in Japa, understand how these 9 factors are coming together. Vak, Dhvani, Agni, Sankhya, Pran, Surya, Arthabhav, Manas and Chandra. So this is divulged by Japa Rahasya. So if you try to put this down on a piece of paper for you to have better kind of conception. So make 3 columns as factors of Japa. So the 3 columns, the first column, second column, third column, you have to fill up with this information. First column, first line, Vak, Dhvani, Agni. And second line, under Vak, you get Agni Devata. Okay, so Vak, Dhvani, Agni. This is for the first factor, Vak. So you can put this in in your diagram, the column, figure. Then Sankhya, Pran, Aditya. Sankhya, Pran, Aditya, which is also in a factor of Japa. And then Arthabhav, Manas and Chandra. Now try to ponder over these factors which have been mentioned and how they are involved in Japa. So Japa is not oratory repeating, but understand behind Japa you can see that there are devatas and that there are factors of Japa such as Sankhya and Arthabhavana, etc. So now you will be able to conceive that there are factors in Japa. Now in Japa, you will also find that there is vibration plus rhythm plus harmony. There is harmony between mind and oratory act in Japa. There has to be harmony. If there is no harmony, then the japa is mechanical, and that japa will not be very, very fruitful. It will have limited endowments. So there is vibration, there is spandana. Mantra gives a vibration in your body, because you very well know that even just the letters of japa will be giving vibration in pranic physiology, and you are all aware of this. The japa has letters, literal letters, and literal letters have their vibrations on physiology. So there is vibration. So also the meaning aspect of japa has vibration to your mind. Whatever is the meaning of the japa, it also vibrates your mind, psyche, consciousness. And then japa has a rhythm. Ideally it should have rhythm, and it gets rhythm, particularly when it is coordinated with the breath. Then there is also rhythm. So vibration, rhythm, harmony are also the three factors. Sub-factors are the main factors. So that is how the japa is constituted by these factors which I just now enumerated. So that is one aspect of japa. The second rahasyatmak aspect of japa is that number. Usually the japa is in the number of 108. So many of you are aware of this figure, this number, 108, which is also related to japa. So that number is also important. There is what can be called as 108 rahasya, 108 rahasya. So, Ashtottara Shata Rahasya. Because there are Ashtottara Shata numbers in a japa, that also has some kind of mysterious factor giving that number. Why not 105? Why not 102? Why not 85? Why not 55, etc. can be an argument. But then we know how 108 is significant to japa sadhana, japa upasana. Now, why this number 108 has come in vogue, or why it has come into our custom or tradition? So it is like this. We have 4 speeches: para, pashyanti, madhyama, vaikhari. So there are these 4 speeches. Okay. Then there are 3 factors, such as dhvani, vak, agni. So 4 into 3. Then another set of 3 factors, sankhya, prana, aditya. So another 3 factors, so 4 into 3 into 3. And then arthabhava, manas and chandra, another 3 factors. So 4 into 3 into 3 into 3 equals to 108. So that is one of the reasons why mantras or japa is of 108 repetitions. So there is one aspect of rahasya. It is because of these factors which I just now enumerated. So it has only to be multiplied. 4 into 3 into 3 into 3, it would become 108. So in japa rahasya, 108 number has significance. Then in japa rahasya, the 108 has additional rahasyatmak aspects, which are as I enumerate now. There are 108 major Upanishads, starting from Ishavasya, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Munda, Manduke, Taittiriya, Aitareya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka. etc., etc. There are 108 Upanishads. So that is one thing. Then there are 108 beads to Japamala. The 108 number is arrived in following way. There are 25 principles of Sankhya. Then there are 10 factors of the Pinda and 20 of Brahmanda and Prakriti Purusha, and then 52 Matrukas, 34 Vyanjanas, 16 Swaras, and then Omkara. So it sums up to 108. Then the combination of Graha and Nakshatra, there are 27 nakshatras. Then each nakshatra has 4 phases. So that is why again you come at 108. 27 into 4. So there are so many rahasyatmak aspects which you get in Dharma Shastra, Adhyatma Shastra. So that is why 108 number has importance. So that's an aspect of Japa Rahasya. Then the Japa refers to mantra and nama, Bhagwan nama and mantra. So in Mantra Shastra, for Mantra Siddhi also, there is mention of some numbers for the mantra to be conquered and the mantra to be coming in our fold as a force. So it depends upon certain number of repetitions. I might tell you that it is Mantra Shastra said, it is said in Mantra Shastra that, and Upasana Shastra, that we know about Panchakshari, Shadakshari, Ashtakshari, Dwadashakshari mantras. Now, as many aksharas are there in a mantra, if the japa is carried out to the tune of a crore into those numbers, such as Panchakshari means 5 crores, Shadakshari means 6 crores, Ashtakshari means 8 crores, Dwadashakshari means 12 crores, and Trayodashakshari means 13 crores. So when it is multiplied by 1 crore, that is 10 million. 1 crore is 10 million. So when you multiply that by 10 million, if you carry out those many japas in a prescribed time, in a prescribed way, then there is moksha prapti. That is the power of japa. That is the power of these mantras. Like we know about Sri Ramdas Swami completed 13 crores of japas, that is 130 million japas in 12 years in a prescribed way. It is said in his life that biography, that he did 20 hours of japa every day and 4 hours for other business activity of life, so including sleep. So he would be in japa for 20 hours for 12 years consecutively, 12 years, without sick leave, without privilege leave, without any kind of break. And that's how he completed 13 crores of japas. So that has a unique kind of effect, and exalted effect such as moksha. Then it becomes mokshadayaka. So it became mokshadayaka to Swami Ramdas. Somebody completing Ashtakshara mantras 8 crores in a prescribed way, without a break, on regular basis, without holidays, and then with disciplined life in a framework, within 12 years it has to be completed, then one would have moksha. Narayana Bhakta would be having moksha. Shiva Bhakta would be having a moksha, similarly when it is carried out. With Shadakshari mantra, 6 crores, that is 60 million. 60 billion japas. So this has been promised in Mantra Shastra, Upasana Shastra. Now at this stage, let me tell you an interesting kind of episode related to you, that some of you might have heard about Sayana Madhava, Sayanacharya as Veda Bhashyakar. He has commented on all the 4 Vedas, and it's very popular. The Bhashyas are popular, called Sayana Bhashya. Sayana Bhashya is very popular because the Vedas are classically commented upon by Sayanacharya somewhere in 14th century. That later period. So it is quite closer to us, 14th century, while we are in the 21st century. So not too far back, Sayanacharya was there, and Sayanacharya commented on Vedas, which is still authority. Now, if you look into the life of Sayanacharya, Sayanacharya was brother of Madhavacharya. So Sayana and Madhava were brothers. Now Sayanacharya was a dullard, absolutely dullard. His parents were highly tensed and stressed because of this subnormal development of the child, Sayanacharya. So his father took him to a guru in the town, and he said, "Can you help us to make this child normal? It is absolutely stupid. He is a dullard. He is with very, very, very poor IQ, and then therefore his life will be in difficulty as he grows. So can you help us?" So the guru told him that he has to carry out Gayatri Purascharanam. Most of you know the Gayatri mantra. Now what is Purascharanam? Purascharanam means Gayatri Japa in a prescribed form, where it is, and it has to be completed. Purascharanam means there are 24 rounds of Gayatri Japa. There are 24 rounds of Gayatri Japa in Gayatri Purascharana. And then each stage of it, each part of it, that means 24 times Gayatri Japa. Now how many Gayatri Japas every time? 24 lakhs, that is 2.4 million. So 2.4 million into 24 japas means completing Gayatri Purascharana. And then Sayanacharya began to take up the Purascharana. And he, on a regular basis, he had to do the japa. Like Ramdas did something 20 hours a day, maybe a similar condition here. It had to be done with all observances for life during that time. That means it's not that you can go to office, you can go to shopping, you can go to mall, you can go to journeys, you can go for travels and then do that. No, you have to have very tight framework which doesn't give you freedom for this movement in life. And then you have to complete Purascharana. So he embarked upon Purascharana 24 lakhs, 2.4 million into 24 times. So it was in process, it was progressing. So he had almost completed 23 Purascharanas. And then the Guru happened to visit their house. And then he and his father both said that 23 are over, but there seems to be no difference. What is going to happen by one more round of it? 23 rounds are over, one more round is remaining. 23 rounds have not shown any difference, any change. What change is going to take place by one more? He said, it's a marble. You try it out, you complete it, and then you come back to me. Like when you want to cut a tree, you go on hitting the axe on the trunk of the tree. So maybe in say 100 strokes, you complete that act. It doesn't mean the 100th one is only successful and 99 were not of any use. No, the 99 are paving way for 100th stroke to befall the tree. Similar is the case here. He tells him that it is in process and then see what happens. Because the tree is going to fall with one final stroke. But that doesn't mean all the strokes preceding though that point were futile. They did contribute. Similarly, it's going to be working like that here. So you continue with your zest, zeal, spirit and faith. It will happen. Then when he completes 24, the Gayatri Purascharana, 24 rounds of 2.4 million japas, then Sayanacharya becomes what he became. He could comment on Vedas. The dullard who could not even have ordinary comprehension of worldly matters, worldly education, he comprehended Vedas and commented on Vedas. That's the story of Sayanacharya. So the Gayatri Purascharana plays a marvel. To give you a latest example of our times, one Pandit Sri Rama Sharma of Uttar Pradesh completed Gayatri Purascharana. This was not more than 100 years back. Less than 100 years back, he completed Gayatri Purascharana. And then what was the outcome? He became a prolific writer. He translated 4 Vedas into Hindi. He translated 108 Upanishads into Hindi. He translated 24 Gitas into Hindi. He translated 20 Smruti Granthas such as Manu, Yagnavalkya, Daksha, Parashara Smruti, etc. 20 Smrutis into Hindi. He translated Shat Darshanas into Hindi. This is really prolific to be translating these works into Hindi language. And the force behind this was his Gayatri Purascharana. So Gayatri Purascharana does work like that. So there are many, many great people who accomplished Gayatri Purascharana and became great for all times. In the realm of Adhyatma. Not in the realm of mundane world, but in the realm of Adhyatma. So also the Nama. Gayatri is a mantra, you know. But even the Nama is so efficacious. The Nama can get very Bhagwan into one's spell. So again, I will give you recent account, history. Namdeva, contemporary of Jnanadeva, Jnaneshwar, 13th century. He made the Pandurang of Pandharpur dance on his tune when he was doing his Kirtana. That is why his name was very significant, Namadeva. Nama means Bhagwan Nama. So his bhakti evolved by Nama sadhana. The bhakti of Ekanath Maharaj evolved by Nama sadhana. All the various saints of Maharashtra of Varkari Pantha, Varkari Sampradaya, they became exalted by Nama sadhana. Nama can make the Nami a slave of Bhakta. Nama can make the Nami, that is Bhagwan, slave of Bhakta. Bhagwan would dance on the tunes of Bhakta. Kabir also reached his stage by Nama. So also Tyagaraja, Namadev, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tukaram Maharaj, and various saints, Narsi Mehta, various saints in various regions of our country, they all took recourse to Nama Japa. And the Nama gave them exalted condition. We know the mantra works in so many ways. As I told you last time, right from mundane things such as pain, sprain, aches, etc., or earning glory, name, money, etc. The mantra also can work for, as I said, pathy, stomach ache, headache, etc., or epileptic condition of a person can be overcome by mantra. So the Nama too does that way. So there is a verse in Prelude to Vishnu Sahasranama in Mahabharata. So all of you know Vishnu Sahasranama. So there is a verse, Rogarto muchyate rogat bandho muchyeta bandhanat. So see what is the efficacy of the Nama Japa. Rogarto muchyate rogat. One will be free from diseases if he is infested by disease. Baddho muchyeta bandhanat. The bound one will become liberated one. Na ashubham prapnoti manavaha. Never ashubha will happen. Never inauspicious will happen to one who is in Nama Japa. Yasho prapnoti vipulam. Success will be abundantly available by Nama Japa. Bhavati arogo dyutiman. One will become glorious, dyutiman, and aroga, without being afflicted by any disease. And more important for spiritual seeker is nakrodho rachamatsharyam nalobho nashubham matim. By Nama sadhana you can conquer all these. Otherwise it is how difficult to conquer kama, krodha, lobha, moha, the mada, matsarya. Have you identified any means to overcome these shadripus? To overcome kama, overcome krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya? Nama will do it. Nama does it. That's why that verse, nakrodho nachamasaryam nalobho ashubham matim. Na ashubhamati. Another incident I will give you. Ramayana time, Srimad Ramayana. In Srimad Ramayana, the Setu was being built to go across the ocean to Sri Lanka, to liberate Sita, who was captivate of Ravana. So the Setu was built. How was this Setu built? Hanuman suggested that we must drop the boulders into the ocean. And then he said, on each boulder we will inscribe the name of Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. And when the boulder was thrown into the ocean, it did not sink. It floated. And therefore, a floating bridge was built. That is called Rama Setu. Then Rama says, if you are writing my name on it, and then you are throwing the boulder into the ocean, why not I myself drop the boulders into the ocean? So he tries to pick up a boulder and throws it into the ocean. It sinks. He says, how come? You are writing my name and it floats. But I myself, when I put it, it is sinking. And there that rahasya, bhakti rahasya, nama is greater than nami. Sri Rama, the name of that Purushottama Sri Rama is greater than the Rama himself. And in our case, sometimes our names are Narayan, our names are Shiva, Shankara, Krishna, Rama, Ganesha. Our name is rich, but then what are we? So here, then just as we are given great names, we are not given inferior names by our parents, because the name scores over the named. And that was proved in Ramayana, that Sri Rama could not throw the boulders into the ocean. Name of his had to be inscribed on it, and then it would be floating. That's the Nama Rahasya. So Nama also can be working like that. Anyway, little bit of the Japa Rahasya here. Now, let me also incidentally tell you here. Many of us, almost all of us rather, we know that our Ashtanga Yoga, that we are trying to make a headway. In Ashtanga Yoga, you have Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. In Yamas, you have Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. In Niyama, you have Shaucha, Santosha, Tapas, Svadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana. But it doesn't occur to us that Nama Japa is so significant for Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. We think they are moral ethical practices. We must practice them as moral ethical practices and develop them as moral ethical practices. And that will be accomplishing the two limbs of yoga. No, that's not the way. Because as I told you in earlier sessions, that Yama Niyamas are not moral ethical principles, they are ethico-religious principles. Now, if I put a question, what sadhana are you going to do for Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha? What sadhana do you identify in Shaucha, Santosha, Tapas, Svadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana? You will not identify any sadhana. Because you will think these are certain moral, ethical practices, hygienic practices, practices of the body and mind, keep the body pure by doing something, take bath and purify the body, remain clean and purify the body. Similarly, do something to purify the mind. Let me tell you, in classical yoga, at some stage you will realize that Nama is quite an important practice. Nama Japa, Mantra Japa is so important to be developing Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, which is mentioned by Patanjali. So also in Shaucha, Santosha, Tapas, Svadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhana, even you will understand Ishwar Pranidhana, there is a Nama Japa, etc. But even the other four niyamas, they are accomplished by Nama, Japa. That is why, if you recall, I had said about Satsanga, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha. You very well know that by Satsanga you will overcome the contraries to Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, namely Himsa, Asatya, etc. So by Satsanga you understand that you can counter the Himsa tendency, Asatya tendency, Steya tendency, Abrahmacharya tendency, Parigraha tendency. So you know that Satsanga works. But then I told you that even sadhana sangha should be coming there. Then what is the sadhana for ahimsa? What is the sadhana to mitigate, enfeeble, attenuate, and then completely overcome himsa? Or similarly asatya, or steya, or a brahmacharya, or parigraha. In the sadhana sangha, in a big way, the nama sadhana, japa sadhana comes. Nama sadhana, mantra sadhana, japa sadhana comes. Japa is such a potent instrument, and that comes as a part of sadhana sangha. Some sadhana is there for ahimsa. Some sadhana is there for satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Sadhana is there for shaucha, santosha, tapas, swadhyaya, ishwar pranidhan. So sadhana comes in the form of japa. So the two limbs, japa will be coming as a strong component in sadhana. Of course, it is after a hierarchy. At beginner's hierarchy, one may not understand the relationship or significance of japa with ahimsa, japa with satya, japa with asteya, etc. Japa with shaucha, japa with swadhyaya, etc. etc. Swadhyaya, of course, it is mantra japa. But then other factors, apart from swadhyaya and ishwar pranidhan, you will not identify any role of nama japa, mantra japa for the 3 niyamas and the 5 yamas. However, japa is a major instrument. Then we're coming to asana. Nowhere you will be able to understand the implication of japa or japa as nuances of asanas. Now in asanas, it has to be sthira sukham asanam. Sthira, does it mean only steady body? Is it just steady body in sthira, sthirata of the sutra? So for that steadiness of particular level, your breath must be replicated. If the breath is not replicated and the breath is heterogeneous, one cycle with other cycles heterogeneous, then how will you get some steadiness in the internal aspects? So if you take recourse to one nama, one mantra and one nama, the breath will be replicated for entire duration that you stay in an asana. So it will contribute for some factor of steadiness. Your body might be steady, maybe your mind is steady. But some aspects of your psyche consciousness will not be steady with the haphazard breath, with heterogeneous breath, not only in the physical sense of volume, velocity, density, but the pattern of the breath. So nama gives you pattern. If you continue the same nama, suppose you are using the nama Rama Krishna Hari Govinda, 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 Rama Krishna Hari Govinda. In your in-breath, in your out-breath, something is replicated, and that is very vital to satisfy the condition of sthirata in asana. So in asana also, at some stage this will come. Today we are only concerned about postural aspects, and therefore we see that some technical aspects are carried out properly. Straightening, stretching, elongating, extending, tightening, widening, narrowing, thinning, bending, rotating, etc., etc. And then we try to get physical steadiness. But then we don't bother about other steadiness. Maybe even your psychological mind might be steady in your asana. But something vital is not steady. That will be only steadied when your breath is replicated. Breath is going in an identical design, because we are going to inhale and exhale during the stay in an asana. So if that doesn't have a scheme for homogeneity, then naturally it is going to be heterogeneous breathing, and therefore that aspect will be not steady. So even in asana, at some level, the nama will give the steadiness required in that realm. So even in asana it comes. Pranayam. Pranayam means it should be replicated breath and cluster of replicated breaths and breathing. Now, in order to replicate it, it's not only in physical dimensions, but the pattern given by prana kriya. Because you know that pranayam is not there without prana kriya. Prana kriya is so integral. So the prana kriya will replicate the breath. Nama kriya will replicate the breath. Mantra will replicate the breath. So breath will be replicated in its design, in its configuration, and therefore japa also comes in pranayam. So otherwise you would not be imagining this, how japa will come in an asana as an integral component. It might be just an accessory. If you now do it, it will be accessory. Your japa will be accessory. But it comes as an integral component after a level, hierarchy. So the japa is in ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, shaucha, santosha, tapas, swadhyaya, ishwaravanidan, asan, pranayam. So also when it is in pranayam, the pratyahar also is a pranayam. If you recall, sometimes I told you in one of the sessions, pratyahar is a kind of pranayam, dharana is a kind of pranayam, dhyan is a kind of pranayam, samadhi is a kind of pranayam. So if it is in pranayam, nama, japa comes in pranayam, it will certainly come in all the rest of the four, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So see how japa is infesting yoga sadhana, if not at our hierarchy, at a higher hierarchy. So I want you to register this fact as well in your mind. So we were trying to understand subtler aspects of japa in this session. I think that is enough for the time being. So we'll break here and we will continue this in the next session. Namaskar all of you.